It's time for the Las Vegas Sports Line, brought to you by the Sunset Station with sports director Chuck Esposito. Presented by WagerTalk.com.
Here we go, brand new week on the show, the Las Vegas Sports Line. I'm Dave Cokin. Marco DAngelo from WagerTalk is here. Ari Platinum is our producer. And he joins us on Mondays, sometimes Fridays as well. Chuck Esposito, who runs the show in the Sportsbook and Racebook, of course, at Station Casino's Sunset Station. Hi, Chuck. What's going on, man?
Hey, Dave. All good, guys. Happy to be back on with you on a Monday.
We got a lot to talk about. Let's start with some U.S. Open, where Gary Woodland, nice long price for those who backed him. I did not have him really as even a consideration going in with his U.S. Open history. Didn't think this was a great course for him, but Gary Woodland wins it, but that has not had a ripple effect on the early British Open odds. It looks like it's going to be all Brooks Koepka on everybody's tickets right now.
Yeah, we were clearly rooting for Woody yesterday. As you mentioned, there wasn't a whole lot of tickets on him. It was actually really good for us. But we talked about it going into the final round that Koepka was coming. Koepka wasn't a bad decision, but not nearly as good as what Woodland would have been. Most of the action as far as liability came on Mickelson and Tiger. Pretty good shape on everybody else on the board, but fantastic shape on Woody yesterday. So overall, I think it was a pretty good outcome for all the books across the board, guys.
So now you know what's coming in the British Open. I mean, Tiger's
Yep.
going to get attention. There'll be a couple of the high-end Brits or UK guys that will get attention, and Koepka's going to be the favorite. I mean, I'm seeing 6-1 now, which is just, wow, it's just staggering how low that is. I honestly did not think we'd see a guy at Tiger-type odds other than Tiger if he got all the way back to his old form. But here's Koepka now commanding that type of price.
Well, at that price, guys, I could see that being raised, though, before the event, depending on how action is. I think that's what's the great thing about golf right now. You have so many young, talented golfers, and these majors now have become such an event where you're looking for some value. I know that the three of us talked about it not too long ago or prior to the U.S. Open, that there was guys that you could target and guys with some value, and I think that's what you're looking for across the board right now. Of course, Koepka at 6-1, there's not a whole lot of value there, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a lack of action cause that price go up prior to the British.
Big weekend for basketball, Chuck. Keep you guys busy. You got to be juggling some numbers, and really you can't get too excited yet because there's a couple big prospects got to land somewhere, and that starts with Kawhi Leonard. How much of a ripple effect is it going to be to wherever he goes? Does he stay in Toronto? Does he go to the Clippers? A lot of people are talking that the Clippers are the destination that he's going to end up at. How does that affect things? And we saw the market move dramatically with the trade for Anthony Davis to the Lakers.
It does change things dramatically, Marco. I think the landscape was changed, of course, when Durant and Thompson got hurt. Yeah. I think that opened things up. I thought, prior to the Davis trade, that if the Lakers didn't land Davis, even in lieu of the injuries to Golden State, that they were an also-ran. That I thought at best they were a borderline playoff team, even with LeBron and what they had. They had to make that deal, and they did. Of course, as you mentioned, we saw everything change dramatically now, and they're the favorite going in. But now I think you look at the West, and with the injuries to Durant and Thompson, some of the question marks with Houston internally, and then what happens with Leonard. I mean, if Leonard stays in Toronto, I think you look at Toronto being the best team in the East, along with Milwaukee, and then the Lakers in the West. But I think the key is Leonard. If he moves out west, now with the Lakers picking up Davis and potentially maybe Walker or Kyrie or Jimmy Butler, I think it changes so much. So I wouldn't be surprised now maybe he stays with Toronto, although I still think going to the Clippers is the favorite. You'd now have arguably the two best teams in the league maybe playing in the same building on every other night.
So, Chuck, let's talk about the Lakers because Anthony Davis is now joining LeBron James. That is a phenomenal 1-2 combination. Obviously, you guys adjusted the line. Was the line adjusted all the way to where it is now with the Lakers the favorite, or did you take some action that created them being the favorite?
It was mainly a big adjustment, guys, just based on that. I think you knew he needed a running mate. You knew that Anthony Davis was the big catch. They did give up a haul, though. When you look at giving up Ingram and Ball and Hart and the three number ones, including the fourth overall this year, I think it was a good trade for both teams, but I think it puts so much more pressure on the Lakers to win now. I still think they need another piece. They're able to hold on to Kuzma, which I think was big. They do need another piece right now, and if Leonard moves out west, I think you look at a Clipper team that's awfully good as well. I think you look at the Pelicans and their team, although they lose a superstar in Anthony Davis, they're not going to have to rebuild. I mean, you look at still having Holiday, landing the number 1 pick in the draft. People are interested in potentially Ball being moved, the 4th overall pick being moved for more assets. I think it sets the Pelicans up really well. For me, the big loser in this is the Knicks. They didn't get the number 1 pick. They didn't get Davis. And with the injury to Durant, I don't think they make him a max offer. So Knicks are the biggest loser. I think the trade works out really well for the Pelicans and Lakers. And now whatever happens with Leonard, I think, is the key. And you'll see some sort of a domino effect after that.
Chuck, going back to the Lakers, as you said, they need one more piece. My question to you is, do you go out and get a guy like Kyrie and tie up a lot of money again in the third piece and not have that good bench because they did give up a lot of depth to go get Anthony Davis? Or would you rather see them use the money instead of on a third big piece, get like 3 middle pieces that would give them some depth for the same money?
It's a tough question, guys. I think they have about $22.5 million left. I think they need to go out and get some depth. I really do. I mean, LeBron still has logged a lot of minutes. You saw with Leonard taking the nights off. I think he took 17 days off, and you saw how fresh he was in the postseason. I just don't see that you're going to see LeBron log those type of minutes again this year. I think they need to add some depth. I would go out and use that money to get 3 pieces. Maybe you can get someone to take some sort of a discount to play with LeBron and Davis. But I think to go out and get one more piece there and have those 3 guys, I think it's still difficult out west. I think they seriously need some depth right now, but they are in a win-now mode. I think there's a lot of pressure on that team to win right now.
You know, you just brought up something that, to me, indicates where the value might be on the Lakers, and that's when the over and under win totals go up for next year. You know the Lakers are going to be sky high because of their position as the future book favorite and the fact that we're in Laker country anyway. And yet, we know LeBron's going to have some days off as his years as the clock ticks up on him. Anthony Davis always has some injury issues, and they're going to look for him to probably take, 20 games off during the regular season if they can help it. This is a team that's going to be built more for the playoffs than the regular season. And to me, with what's almost sure to be an inflated over and under win total on the Lakers, I think the under might be a really good bet.
I couldn't agree more with you. I think especially if they go out and they add depth and it's more some young pieces in there. But I think now the blueprint is kind of set with what Toronto did with Leonard. And it really is going to be interesting because they did manage his time well. Yep. They let him kind of dictate some things. They're going to give him a number of different options. If it's a 1-year deal, if it's a 3-year deal with an out clause, if it's a max deal, I think Toronto's in a good spot right now, especially with what's being built out west with the Lakers. I didn't think when the championship was over, there was any shot that Leonard stays with Toronto. I'm starting to waver a bit. I still think the Clippers are the favorite, but I could see him potentially maybe staying in Toronto.
So let's talk about the Warriors for a moment, because for the first time in quite some time, the Warriors are not at the top of the league as far as anything is concerned. Where is their future book price right now, and how do you size them up for next year, moving into San Francisco and really not knowing what the roster is going to be?
I mean, first, guys, I think it's great that Toronto won the championship. I'm not a big fan of, having 2 or 3 teams in the NBA that has the 3-headed monster and everybody's talking about those teams. I think hopefully you'll see some movement with some of the other free agents, and that'll create a good thing. I think the Warriors had a great run, but with those 2 injuries, it definitely changes things. They're not, this is the highest they've been probably over the last 5 years. They'll still be competitive, and maybe you get Thompson back toward the end of the season, but it has changed things a lot. I think you look at the NHL and you look at all the movement there, and 2 teams, you look at the Vegas Golden Knights that were 250-1 and made it to the Cup in their inaugural season. The Blues had the worst record in early January, 250-1, won the Cup. I think it's great for that sport having a hard cap. I think the NBA needs a little bit more parity.
Me too.
And, the Warriors are going to go out and try to get some pieces as well to kind of fill in the blanks until they can get these guys back. But, again, personally, I'm not a big fan of a team that has the 3 star power players and that players are looking to negotiate and navigate to present 2 or 3 teams that are like that, and everybody else becomes an also-ran.
Going look into baseball now. We're in baseball trading season. Big trade over the weekend with Seattle and the Yankees. How's that affecting the market?
Well, they already were Yankee players, guys. There's no question at all. I think you have to hope for the Yankees. I still think they go out and get some pitching at some point. There's no question once they get, a healthy Stanton and now adding this piece to it and then Carcione, that they can score some runs. I think they need some pitching. I think the one big thing to remember this year is that the baseball trade deadline is a hard deadline.
Yes.
There's no more of those waiver wire deals going into August like we've seen in the past. You saw Verlander, who was picked up by the Astros via the waiver wire deal. You've seen it happen year in and year out. That's not going to happen now. So I think between now and the baseball trade deadline, you're going to see teams be more active, see more movement, and a lot more trades happen before the hard trade deadline.
And one team that will, I think you're absolutely right on the Yankees probably going out and adding pitching. And now they've got the obvious trade piece in Clint Frazier, who no longer has a spot on the Major League roster. There's no question that Frazier's got a big league bat. His glove is awful. He looks like he's a DH. But this is certainly a guy who I would think is going to be dangled as trade bait for the Yankees to get either a starting pitcher or another relief piece to help set up Chapman. With Betances very possibly not going to pitch this season for the Yankees, I think they're going to look for another relief pitcher as well.
No, I think so, too. There's been a number of names you've heard kind of flirted out there, and I think you're right about Frazier. I mean, you look at his stats, and he can DH for almost every team in the American League right now. So I think they do have a piece right now to deal. They're going to go out and spend the money. There's no question about it, guys. They're all in. You look at that lineup right now, and you need someone to compete with the Dodgers. I mean, the Dodgers having a double-digit lead like they have. They have the pitching, they've got the hitting, they've got the closer. This Dodger team who took 3 out of 4 from the Cubs over the weekend, which many people were thinking the Cubs with the addition of Kimbrel would be the second best team in the National League after that deal. They looked like the far superior team. Granted, the Cubs led in 3 of those 4 games, still only won 1. Took a home run in the 9th by Rizzo to win the 1 game. But the Dodgers right now are the team to beat in baseball, guys.
Yeah, although the Cubs, I think, are also going to be adding. And we didn't even mention the Houston Astros. And, as much as the Yankees have done, I still think Houston's got the better team.
Well, I think you look at the pitching staff with Houston and the year that Verlander's having right now with the average and on base percentage of what hitters are doing against him, he's having an unbelievable year. They've had some injury problems as well. I think once their guys get healthy, I think that Astro team is awfully good. That's why the Yankees continue to add pieces right now, guys.
Chuck, with a year that the bullpens have been so bad in baseball, how much can a really good closer moving to a good team change the needle on the futures market?
I think it will change it dramatically. I mean, I'll talk about the Cubs first, guys, and I think you clearly knew going into the season that was their Achilles heel. Didn't know if Merrill would be back or not. But you looked at a Cub team that was kind of by committee. They had 11 blown saves before the Kimbrel deal. They had some of the lowest save totals in the league. You have good starting pitching. They've got a big boy pitching staff. When you look at Hendricks when healthy and Quintana and Lester and Hamels, they can flat out pitch, but they needed someone on the back end. I think it changes so many things for them where you can move Strop and Montgomery into more setup roles and Kinsler and some of the other pieces they have when you don't have that closer. So I think teams are going to be looking. If there's closers that are dangled out there, some of the big boys are going to do whatever it takes to get that guy at the back end of the rotation.
Well, that's good for the future market, no question about that in terms of generating action. As far as the game-by-game, night-by-night stuff goes, it's unbelievable. The Padres and Rockies broke an all-time record for runs scored this weekend, 4-game series, 92 runs. We know the market loves to pound overs, especially in parlays. I can't imagine that you guys are cleaning up in baseball right now.
No, it's been a rough stretch, guys. If you compare it to last June, which was a really good June by industry standards over the last year, it's come back. And usually, I'm writing that same email or memo upstairs about the struggles in baseball and how we have to kind of weather the storm. But usually I hope that occurs around the All-Star break or after. You look at the standings this year, and you look at 3 divisions where teams have, either double-digit or close to double-digit leads. You look at the streakiness of the good teams and the bad teams. There was clear division even going into June about the haves and the have-nots. And unfortunately, baseball historically is our lowest hold percentage from our side of the counter, and that really hasn't changed. And June's been a tough month, looking to wave the white flag quite frequently because the teams that they're betting on, not only straight but in parlays, are getting there pretty much consistently every night.
Yeah, and getting there with the over, which makes matters even worse. Well, let's talk NFL.